Good morning, YouTube. As promised in yesterday's vlog, we are going to talk about live versus frozen thawed feeding. This beautiful girl I've got here is named Storm. She is a desert ghost. She is deep in shed, but I pulled her out for a reason, which I'll talk about later in this video. So, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, but the debate seems to be on one side, you hear people say it's not safe for your snake, right? Some people will even say it's not humane for the rodent to feed live, right? That there's no possible need to feed live. It's perfectly healthy to feed them frozen thawed. So if you don't, it's because you're either a sick freak who likes watching things die, or you don't care about the safety of your reptile. That's an extreme version of one side of the debate, right? On the other side, people will sometimes say your rodents will lose some of their nutritional value if they're frozen, right? The snake doesn't like it as much, and so it's just not as stimulating to them during feeding if I feed frozen thawed. I breed my own rodents, so it's convenient to feed live, and I don't see any reason not to. A lot of people will say they eat them live in nature, so that's the way that nature intended for these snakes to eat, right? They go and they have to kill an animal and eat it. So where do I fall on this debate? If you are unwilling or unable to sit and watch your snake the entire time a live rodent is in with your snake, do not feed live under any circumstances. Except one. If the mouse or rat is a tiny baby whose eyes are closed, hasn't ever opened its eyes, is still just suckling, I don't see a problem with leaving one in overnight to try and get your snake to eat. Sometimes with a baby snake, it's a little nervous to eat in front of you or eat in the daytime, so you leave a little pinky rat or something in the cage with it. The snake can kind of eat at its convenience, right? That's fine. But if it's any older than that, even a hopper, do not leave it in with your snake unless you are watching the entire time. That has to be a hard and fast rule. If you're going to break that rule ever, just don't feed your snake that day. Nice thing about snakes, they can go a few days without eating. The thing to me is, if you are willing to watch the entire time, in my mind, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for this, it's actually better for your snake to feed live. And it's only marginally worse for the rodent to be fed off live. Because believe it or not, someone had to kill that frozen thawed rodent. It was killed, right? That's not fun. Being put in a gas chamber with a billion other rats squished up next to you, terrified, peeing all over you, pooping all over you, clawing to get, that cannot be a nice way to die. Absolutely not. Now, if you're like me, and you use cervical dislocation to kill all your rodents, that's just breaking the neck, right? That's a much more humane death in my mind. But the rodents you're buying from any rodent provider are not killed that way. They are killed with gas, right? A CO2 chamber. And I'm not trying to say a CO2 chamber is inhumane and you should feed live because the way they're killed in a CO2 chamber is inhumane. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that being grabbed and squeezed and dead, or at least unconscious, within 10 seconds can't be that much worse than a gas chamber. It just, in my mind, it can't. Is it terrifying? I'm sure it is. But I don't think it's worse, I really don't, than being gassed. I could be wrong. I've never been gassed and I've never been strangled to death. But, shush. But that's just my opinion, right? And I'm entitled to my opinion and I can put it on YouTube. So that's what I'm doing. But, by the way, some people are going to say, oh, there's no way that it suffocates that quickly. 10 seconds is an exaggeration trying to make your point better. Well, fun fact, they don't die from suffocation. The snakes actually squeeze so hard that it cuts off blood flow to the brain, and they lose all sensibility within like 10 or 15 seconds. So it really is that fast, okay? Fun fact. So, I like the convenience of frozen thawed because I'm not breeding my own rats, so I have to buy them anyways, right? So I can just pull out the exact number I need from the freezer, thaw them out, and feed them off, right? But my snakes don't all want frozen thawed. This girl, for example, she's big. She's like a 3,000 gram female, and she's not even that old, so she grew nice and fast, and she's eating live mice, right? I keep doing this. I watched a Brian Barczyk video years ago, right? And I'm not going to say how I feel about Brian Barczyk on this vlog. Maybe on another vlog, but it's not that big a deal. But I watched a vlog of his a long, long time ago where he did this really dumb experiment where he's like, these snakes were fed these tiny little mice, and these snakes were fed these big old rats, and these ones on the big old rats grew faster, so they must be better. It's like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. If you're going to do a comparison of two different types of feed, you have to feed the same volume of both of them, right? Anyway, sorry, just wanted to get that off my chest. She eats mice, has never eaten a rat in her life, and she's a big old girl. And only 2.5, 3.5 years old. So she's the normal, young female, typical being bred in captivity. She's not a, 12-year-old female that's been around for a while. And she grew nice and fast. She's a big girl. And she has been a mouser her whole life. Most of her siblings and her whole cohort, the snakes that hatched with her in that year, switched over to rats. She didn't, and I'm totally fine with that. She plows through mice for us. But anyway, I said earlier in the video that I think it's actually better to eat live, with the huge disclaimer that you must be willing to watch the entire time. Because a rodent can kill your snake. It's not just that it could nibble on it, it could kill your snake. That seems crazy, but it really could. So you just watch. Normally, the snake grabs it, wraps it up, you're good to go, right? But if it doesn't, the snake's going to go curl up somewhere. It's not going to defend itself necessarily if the rodent comes and chews on it. And if you leave it in overnight, you are going to come back to a shredded snake. Not 100% of the time, but you are risking your snakes being just shredded. If you Google snake chewed on by a rat, it's nasty. So with the big caveat that yes, you must watch the whole time and be willing to pull the rat or mouse out the minute you need to, right? If the snake's not willing to eat it that time. If you're willing to do that, you can feed live, and I think that's just fine for a few reasons. I talked about it, I think, a little bit in yesterday's video, but it's good exercise for your snake to capture and kill an animal. That's what they're built for, and it's good for their muscles. It's good for their little snaky cardio, I guess. You still can get one to kind of wrap up a frozen thawed if you twitch it around, do the zombie dance, but it's not the same as actually hunting and killing its prey item. These snakes live in captivity. They're in a cage. They don't get around a lot. In the wild, they're escaping predators. They're finding water. They're finding food. They're moving a ton, getting a lot of exercise. In captivity, they're not. So, to me, if feeding live gets them out that extra little bit of exercise, that's a good thing. 2, it is mentally stimulating for them. Reptiles can get bored. I guarantee it. There's a ton of debate going on about this right now. I'm firmly on the side that yes, reptiles can get bored. Now, an ambush predator like a snake, like a ball python, that's not an active pursuit kind of hunting, it's a lot more tolerant of just sitting in a really sterile environment for a long time without moving than, say, my tree monitors, right? Who are not tolerant of that at all. They want to move, 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 move. But even so, a ball python in the wild is still going to move a lot. And in captivity they don't. So they want the stimulation of live feeding. They want the exercise of live feeding. These are good things about live feeding. No one wants to talk about the good things of live feeding, but they are real. Anyway, so that is where I fall. If you want to feed live, but you're not willing or not able to watch the whole time, don't feed live. Just don't do it. If you do want to feed live, go ahead. Don't let the detractors tell you otherwise. You can do that. You're not a terrible person. in my opinion, is not inhumane for the mouse or rat, any more so than at least being gassed. It's not even going to be dangerous to your snake as long as you're there watching. And it's healthy for your snake. So for all these reasons, I'm in favor of feeding live, as long as it's done correctly. So, thank you for watching. I hope that I didn't just offend half of our viewers that don't think you should feed live, but I do. And we've never had a snake injured. We've never had a snake even come close to getting injured. By the way, their scales are tough. I admit I'm not feeding, giant rats to my snakes. That might be a different story. But the mice that I'm feeding to my snakes, occasionally if the snake grabs it down low and starts to wrap it up, the mouse does manage to get a couple of little bites in. But there's never been blood drawn on any of my snakes ever from a mouse. Ever. So their scales are tough. They are built for this. I don't have any of snakes that are all scarred up and everything from, feeding live. They're all in great condition. I know this girl's in shed, but she's a beautiful girl. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching. I've been wanting to do this video for a while, so I didn't know any other way to state these opinions other than just put them out there. Again, I wasn't trying to offend anybody who thinks differently. But I do want to have my voice out there as well, because it seems like, at least from what I see on the internet, most of the voices out there are the other direction, that you shouldn't feed live. So I wanted people who are new to the hobby to at least be able to hear a voice in favor of live feeding. So that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching. Till next time, we're the Reptile Barn.